Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be installing a intake manifold from a 2018 to 2020 Subaru BRZ performance package on my 2022 Subaru BRZ, again codenamed Sylvie. Hey guys, so I wanted to pause the video, kind of give you guys some spoilers. So we ended up not putting on the intake manifold on the Sylvie simply because there was one piece that didn't fit. But I went through the whole process for you guys, showing you on kind of explaining why it doesn't fit. I know there is a company called Off the Line Performance that did make a retrofit kit to go ahead and throw it on, but I'm going to show you at the end of this video some drawbacks on why you may not want to do that. I did have this on my FRS before, and I didn't take it off because I didn't think it fit. But doing research, I actually saw a lot of K20, or sorry, I'm thinking about the K20, like a K20 or K24, but the FA24 swaps, like people are putting in cross tracks and other BRZs are using this same red intake manifold. Alright, so I wanted to pause the video once more to show you some dyno graphs that Off the Line Performance was able to provide as far as how much power that the new intake manifold, well, the powder coated intake manifold made on the new gen BRZ. So as you can see by the dyno graph, you can see that Off the Line Performance was able to gain some power in the 4,500 RPM range to the 6,000 RPM range. But if you're looking at the overall dyno graph, the overall power has decreased and you're losing some top end power. So in my opinion, that's just not something worth it for me, just going, JDL turbo in the future. So like I said, stay tuned to the end of this video where I kind of compare both intakes, intake manifold, and are making a lot of power. So I'm really curious to see with this intake manifold, it being aluminum, maybe having a better flow, if it makes more power. We're going to be putting a flex fuel kit, delicious tuning flex fuel kit on the Sylvie. But yeah, just enjoy this quick little video. As I mentioned, we are here at my friend Daniel's house, so you can kind of see how I do this. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. This is Charlie. It's Daniel's dog. That's Daniel right there, the homie. So pretty much what we're going to need here is the 2018 to 2020 Subaru BRZ performance package red intake manifold. I did have to go to AutoZone to get this vacuum cap because it's not going to be using this because now I believe the brake booster grabs vacuum from one of the engine components on the engine, so it doesn't need that anymore. So we just went ahead and capped that off. For the gaskets, we're going to need 2 intake manifold gaskets that go on the bottom. We're going to need this screw that goes right on the MAF sensor right there. And then we also need a throttle body gasket that's going to go right here. And we're also going to need the injector gaskets to go right here for your port injectors. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started installing this bad boy. Pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to transfer the MAP sensor, and we're also going to be removing the the fuel rails, both sides, the driver and the passenger side fuel rails. Of course, by disconnecting all of these hosing, all of this vacuum lines that are kind of connecting to it, just getting everything out of the way so we can get those 6 bolts that are holding down the intake manifold. I guess it fell into the floor plan now. The bolt, remember the bolt it fell?
Oh, okay.
I think it was like leaning on something and then now it just fell off. All right. right, so far we've taken off the fuel rail covers right here. I did disconnect the ECU, or the direct injector ECU, I believe that's what that is, to kind of have access to these bolts that are here. So you have two bolts that are holding on the fuel rail. The idea here, once we took off those covers on both sides, we're going to take off those two, I believe 12mm bolts to take off the fuel rails on both sides, and then we can go ahead and go for the 6 bolts that are holding down the intake manifold, so we can go ahead and get those hoses that are underneath it out.
We're now ready. Take off the man. Go! You got it. I'll point.
All right, so we went ahead and took off the fuel rails. We moved them to the side, this one to the bottom, and now we have also removed the 3 bolts on the left and 3 bolts on the right, as well as moving that fuel rail aside. Biggest tip that I would say removing the fuel rail is removing your injectors. So you just disconnect your injectors, and then if you can, like, move your injector to the right, and then you have access to the fuel rail bolts. But then once you do that, like I said, just removing those 3 bolts that are holding the intake manifold. Once you do that, we should be able to pull it up and get the hoses that are underneath the intake manifold. All right, guys, so after taking the OEM out and putting the 18 to 2020 intake manifold in, we noticed that the throttle body on the new one is actually bigger. So these mounting points are farther out than the old one. So, oh, fuck, this is too heavy. So yeah, these.
Ooh, that's kind of small. Yikes.
Are closer in, and what my idea was to buy a Graham's throttle body, the 80mm throttle body, to fit onto this. But I'm like, at the end of the day, I feel like with those intake runners, they're larger, they're longer, and they're larger. This one might not give me most power, so I might just stay with that until Subaru releases one with a aluminum intake manifold, or I might just buy a Graham's throttle body. I'm kind of undecided right now, but we're gonna go ahead and throw back the intake. So we're back at the house. As I mentioned, we ended up not throwing on that red intake manifold from the previous gen BRZs, simply because when I was looking at the intake manifold itself, it just looked like the intake runners were smaller, the opening to the throttle body was smaller. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna wait until Subaru releases a performance package for the BRZ in the new gens. I feel like, they're gonna follow the same roadmap with the Brembos and the performance package and the sax dampeners. So I'm gonna just wait for that. When they release that aluminum intake manifold. For right now, if you guys still want to put on that red intake manifold, like I said, Off the Line Performance did release a adapter kit. I'm gonna go ahead and drop that in the description for you guys to check out and maybe put it on yourselves. But I wanted to kind of thank you for watching this kind of experimental video. But again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.